I'm Hazel, and I'm here to talk about the wound of infertility. It affects a lot of us women, and it's a very difficult topic to talk about. So hopefully I can encourage those that are going through the journey. I vividly recall the morning of June 2010 when I stood outside Nairobi Hospital, and I was holding this piece of paper that said miscarriage. I was carrying a dead baby inside me. Little did I know this would be the beginning of my infertility wound. Fortunately, that wound did not start until later in my life. I had a very happy childhood, and in my 20s I went to college and I met this great guy. We had a bulletproof plan. We were going to finish college, we were going to get married, we were going to have a family, and everything was going to go well. However, towards the end of my 20s, we broke up. So my dreams came crushing. And here I was at 30 and single. I wondered what I would do with myself. So then I forgot the idea of having babies. I started globetrotting, going to different countries, and just climbing the career ladder, definitely trying to get up there past the glass ceiling. But every now and then, I would attend a friend's wedding or a relative's wedding. I'd really admire them, and I'd wonder, when am I really going to start my life? But then, I went and did the opposite. Instead, I just dated guys that did not share the same interests that I had. Then came 40, and I was still single, and panic mode just hit. And then I went through that decision process that many of us women go through. I remember Valentine talking about being a single mother. And I thought about that, and I said, should I be a single mother, or should I wait for Mr. Fantastic? So then I did two things. One of the things I did was, those guys who didn't have the same interests, the ones you go for a coffee date with, the ones you go to a movie with, I just sort of shoved them aside. And then I went to a baby shop, and I bought an outfit for a 3-year-old boy. I kept it in my closet, and I started praying. I prayed that I would find a partner who wanted the same thing I did. And then came 41, and a friend of mine said to me, your chances of meeting a man that wants to get married and settle down are much lower than those of being struck by lightning. And at 41, I was struck by lightning. I met Mr. Fantastic. And he wanted a family. So we didn't waste any time, and we got pregnant really quickly. However, a couple of months into that pregnancy, I started spotting. I remember I was standing outside Nairobi Hospital, and that morning my parents were looking for me. My mom is here right now. My dad had insisted they were going to have breakfast with me. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a really dull day, because that was the day that I was holding a piece of paper that said miscarriage. They said it was a blighted ovum, and that's when a fertilized egg connects itself to your uterus lining, but it doesn't become an embryo. So here I was with this loss, and the doctor said we had to do a D&C. They had to take me into theater and remove all the abnormal tissues that were in my uterus. So here my parents, on the one hand, sitting outside theater waiting for me, and on the other hand, I'm wondering what is going on with me. I was so excited. I had met Mr. Fantastic. We were about to have our first child. And just like that, the baby's dead. After that D&C, I grieved. And I felt this infertility wound was just growing. But then we continued trying. And at 43, again, I got pregnant. And it was naturally happening. So I said to myself, maybe I'm still in control. Maybe I could still, just have this pregnancy thing going okay. Unfortunately, at 6 weeks, I went to see a doctor, and then he turned on the monitor and we could hear the heartbeat. I was so excited. But this excitement didn't last for long, because the doctor was like, the doctor said that the heartbeat was a little weaker than it was supposed to be for 6 weeks. So he put me under hormone treatment, and he sent me home and said, come back after 1 week. Upon returning, after 1 week, there was no heartbeat. So here I was with a second dead baby. And he said there were 3 choices that we had. We could either do a DNC. I remembered my other DNC and I said, there's no way I'm doing another one. Or we could let it come out on its own, or he could give me a pill to fast track it. So I said, you know what, I'll just let it come out on its own. Bad decision in hindsight. Because you don't know, will it come out today? Will it come out tomorrow, next week, next month? And you're just going about your life wondering when this baby will come out on its own. And so a couple of weeks after, I started bleeding. And it was a really bad time. It was so painful. And then I'd look at the different excretions and I'd try to make out, is this the head? Is this the torso? Are these the legs? It was horrible. A couple of weeks after that, I thought I was fine. But 3 months into it, I collapsed one day in our bedroom. And that's when I knew everything was not okay. This time I went to see a general practitioner, and he thought I had an antacid problem. And so that's how he medicated me. However, a couple of months after that, I was traveling. I had gone on a business trip in China. And a woman friend of mine said to me, why don't you just go have a test done? All the women who come from Africa, they come here and they get a test done. So I thought, you know what, it doesn't hurt. Let me get a test done. It was a good thing I agreed because they found that my body still thought it was pregnant. This was 5 months after. My HCG levels, which is the pregnancy hormone that goes up when you're pregnant, it was still rising. And guess what had to happen in China? A DNC. It was horrible. This time, I did not have my parents there. I was alone. And what made it so depressing were that there were these Chinese girls coming in droves, just coming to get a DNC done, because at the time, they were only allowed 1 child. So any woman who felt that she needed a DNC, they came in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they just went off to do their own business. I was so depressed that day. I remember staying in the hospital for the whole day. And they were wondering what was wrong with me. After this surgery, I went back to my cold hotel room, lonely. This journey was starting to feel like my hotel journey, where it was lonely, it was cold, and there was just really no one to talk to when I was in these countries. Upon returning, I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep trying. I'm not going to give up. Even if I've had these 2 DNCs, I'm just going to keep trying. So I thought I'd get my tubes checked. And I remember going to Nairobi Hospital. And the male doctor said to me, it's a painful procedure, but I can't tell you how you're going to feel because I'm not a woman. So they put this dye through your tubes, and you get to watch it on a screen. It was really painful. But thank God the coast was clear. So we continued trying. Still nothing was happening. So we decided to seek a second opinion. This other doctor said that I had a fibroid that was actually sitting on top of my uterus, preventing me from becoming pregnant. And they had to take this fibroid out. This entailed a laparoscopy as well as endometriosis, which is when your inner lining of your uterus grows outside your uterus, preventing you from having a baby. Went ahead, again in a foreign country, had another surgery. This time I went back to my hotel room, and there was even a bed bug. This is just how bad it was getting. This doctor said to me, now you can go back home and have your baby. So my wound was deepening because there were all these people who were giving me hope, and they're like, go have your baby now. Everything's fine. Came back home and tried to have a baby again. Still nothing was happening. So I went to see a different fertility specialist. And this time, they found another fibroid that was inside my uterus. So now I was starting to wonder, what are all these fibroids? One is on top, the other one is inside. I mean, it was really getting bad. I remember this was June of 2014, and they scheduled a surgery for August of the same year. When I went back to get the surgery, this fibroid had almost tripled in size. It had grown so big and so hard. And so they took it out. And what this one doctor said to me was, you're now 45. I was 45 at the time. you just want to go and do IVF. Don't waste time, because when you get to 45, one day you'll have your period, and the next day you'll be ovulating. You can't time these things. So don't waste any time, just go get the IVF done. And IVF is the in vitro fertilization, where they get the egg and the sperm, and they put them together in a Petri dish to form an embryo. So I came back home, and I decided, you know what? I'm just going to do it here in Nairobi. I've been to China, I've been to South Africa, I've been to America. Let me just try Nairobi. So I went to the Nairobi IVF clinic, and I saw Dr. Nora. It's a depressing clinic to go to. There are all these women that are sitting around. And I looked and said to myself, are all these people trying to have a baby as well? And they're just not from Kenya. They're people from East Africa, they're people from around the world. This infertility issue has really become something big. And when Dr. Nora looked at all my results, he said I was a good candidate for IVF. So I was very excited. I went back home, and I told my partner, you know what? We have another option. Dr. Nora said we can do IVF. Uh-oh. My partner wasn't as excited as I was. Mr. Fantastic was like, IVF is a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it doesn't work. So, can you imagine getting a bodily fluid from somebody who's not willing? So, I begged and begged until he said yes. So I went back to Dr. Nora and I said, yes, we have a yes, let's do this. So the process started. And the first thing they do is inject you in your stomach, a long, painful injection, so that they can take control of your cycle. And then they start popping you with pills, a lot of estrogen, a lot of progesterone. One day you have an injection on this side, the other day an injection on this other side. And whatever side they inject you on, you can't sleep on that side. That's just how painful it is. A couple of weeks into that, it was now time to get the egg and the sperm. The morning we got the sperm, you have to keep it at body temperature. So here I was, having a test tube right by my breast. You have to get it to the hospital within 90 minutes. So you imagine trying to zip through Nairobi traffic, carrying this precious item. Otherwise, it's useless. If you don't do those things, you get to the hospital and it's useless. So thank God everything turned out okay. And then we had the gruesome egg harvesting procedure. At least they put you under. So then they put the egg and the sperm together, and 5 days after you have a blastocyst, which they went ahead and implanted in me. After that, you've got what they call the 2WW, which is the 2-week wait period. I promise you, it feels like 10 years. It is so long. And during that period, they tell you can't eat eggs, you can't walk in high heels, you can't smell anything that's strong. It's just a really tough period. And it was very nerve-wracking for me at the time because I had been called barren, infertile, childless, hurtful fibroids, never will be a mother. So on the one hand, you've got all this hope. On the other hand, you've got all these fears. And you can't really share these things with people because you don't want your friends to label you or define you by these processes. At the same time, you want to be out there and tell people what's going on. So thank God, after 2 weeks, we got a positive pregnancy result. We're now blessed with a 3.5-year-old boy. As well as a 6-month-old boy. Yes. And Mr. Fantastic has been really, really good with the kids and very, very supportive, especially the second IVF. He was very, very supportive. So I'd like to encourage women who are on this journey and tell you it's possible, although I wish I could have done it earlier. I was listening to BBC yesterday and they were saying the biggest reason of infertility is because women are waiting longer to meet a partner. And when they do that, then their quality and quantities of their eggs declines. However, prayer is also very important. It's one of the things that you need to go ahead and just pray. This year when my son reached 3, I went and I pulled out that little baby outfit that I had bought for him, and I put him on, and my wound was healed.